Many of you may know OK K.O, Let's Be Heroes, for being a silly, cartoony, and overall pretty lighthearted show. But as you're about to see, there's a shocking amount of political commentary throughout the show, ranging from subtle,
I know you get your power from having eyes on you, so I'll make you powerless. Consider yourself suspended.
to extremely obvious.
Stay back! I mean it!
Easy now, K.O. Let's not do anything we might regret.
So I'm going to take a look at the 4 main political themes explored throughout the show and see how well they were integrated. The Power Is Yours is one of OK K.O's many crossovers, this one being with Captain Planet. For those unaware, Captain Planet was a cartoon that aired back in the 90s that aimed to teach kids about environmentalism and climate change and the sort. While we may cringe now and look back on shows like this as preachy or heavy-handed, it's important to remember that there really wasn't anything like this for kids back in the 90s that tackled green issues so bluntly, especially considering that this was the time when cartoons were mostly seen as a way to sell toys and merchandise, which in turn would cause waste and pollution. I look at shows like Captain Planet as necessary, for allowing themes that go beyond the screen to be a more accepted thing, even at the cost of being accused of quote-unquote seeking to scare children into political activism and having quote-unquote leftist slants. And almost 30 years after the show first aired, here it is crossing over with a cartoon to push that same message to kids of a new generation.
The Earth is in serious danger. Saving the planet is no longer an option that we can choose to ignore.
The episode follows K.O. and Kwame, a character from the original series, trying to stop a duo of Boxman and Dr. Blight, causing pollution and damage in Lakewood Plaza. One of the recurring themes of the episode is how the general public either doesn't care about climate change or doesn't even believe it exists. This rings true in real life, as while temperatures, sea levels, and natural disasters increase around the world, most are pretty much indifferent to the issue. It also allows companies and businesses the leeway to skip out on being environmentally conscious because most consumers aren't really checking for it, which is paralleled in the partnership between Blight and Boxman. I do enjoy the fact that the show keeps its goofy and silly nature and doesn't take itself too seriously, even with this message. The ability of Boxman and Blight is exaggerated, thus the message of promoting environmental activism and friendliness is also exaggerated. This is good, not only because it makes the episode more palatable for a child audience, but it keeps to the original nature of the show, so while it does stick out for having a stronger than usual message, it doesn't stick out for feeling too different from an average episode of the show. Probably the most memorable part of the episode is at the end, where the animation style completely switches to the older, more detailed Captain Planet art style, and they do a call to action exactly how the OG Captain Planet would have done it in the 90s.
You can do simple things, like unplugging your phone charger when not in use.
Or remembering to bring reusable bags when you go to the grocery.
Not only is it funny to see this cast of characters act in this way, but it adds a layer of sincerity to the episode. And you can tell that the cast not only appreciated the original, but the message of it as well. It doesn't feel forced or contrived, it comes off as genuine, and that the cast just wanted to pay homage to one of their favorite shows and at the same time, encourage kids to take action against a real-world problem, which I will always see as a net positive. But promoting environmentalism is just one way that the show sneaks in real-life political commentary. What happens when the message doesn't come from the characters directly, but instead through the way media in the show is manipulated? You get characters like Dynamite Watkins.
No comment.
Oh, is that so? Well, I think the public deserves to know!
Watkins is the main news anchor in the show. She's no nonsense, will do anything to get to the bottom of the story, and in general is just a very funny character, one of my personal favorites. She also has one of the coolest abilities in the show in my opinion, where she's able to literally get any piece of information out of anyone just by pointing a microphone at them. My favorite appearance from her, and the one I'll be analyzing in this video, comes from Action News, which comes towards the tail end of season 1. Lord Boxman and Boxmore are at large after something massive, something that's been building up for almost half the season at this point, and Watkins is committed to serving her duty as a journalist to let the public know exactly what it is. However, she's stopped in her tracks by none other than her boss, the Big Cheese, who tells her to cut the Boxman story because it's later revealed that he was working for Boxmore the entire time. When she doesn't heed her boss's warnings and continues to air the story, she gets fired and her show gets cancelled.
No more journalism! Guess I'll have to do something boring, like play with toys.
They also pull a neat double meaning here because Dynamite Watkins gets her powers from having people watch her. And now that her audience has been taken away, she is powerless both literally, in the sense that her powers are gone, and figuratively, since she can't do anything to present the Boxman story to the public because they can't see her anymore. If you couldn't already tell, this episode delves into censorship and the role that media and journalism plays in society. The very fact that she could be taken off the air for investigating Boxmore, which in the show is a private company that should have no influence on journalism standard, and is known to be doing all kinds of evil shit pretty much every week, is insane. It also serves as a warning to how easy the media you consume can be controlled or limited without you even knowing it. Not only that, it also highlights the importance of journalists as a whole, seeing as how thanks to her efforts, the public becomes aware that Boxman was building a new robot to destroy the plaza, which was the main conflict of the season 1 finale that came just an episode after this one. The show pretty much snuck a plot about the importance of unbiased journalism into an episode and disguised it as a normal OK K.O. episode, and managed to make it fantastically enjoyable at the same time. And when the media is silenced and unable to warn the public of potential threats, who steps in to protect the people before it's too late? Well, in Lakewood Plaza, that responsibility falls to the government, or in this case, powerful organization that might just resemble something a little bit more militarized. Point is a superhero organization that holds a lot of power and significance in the show. They protect the Glorb sanctuary that lies beneath the plaza, and protects them from getting into the wrong hand. They also have a whole academy that trains the best superheroes around that takes an Enid at one point, pun intended, and most importantly for the purposes of this video, exert their power over Lakewood Plaza when they feel a situation arises that requires stronger heroes. And if anyone has a problem with that, they can speak to the leader of Point, Foxtail.
One zap, and you lose every ounce of your power. The effects are temporary, but if you don't fall in line, my next shot will be permanent.
They basically act as the government/military of this world, and as such, they're not portrayed in the best light. The episode Dark Plaza is where a lot of the flaws of the organization come to light. So, in that episode, it's revealed that Carol, who used to be a part of the original Point team under the name Silver Spark, has secretly been helping them keep an eye on the Glorb Sanctuary, as it contains a lot of untapped power that could be detrimental to Lakewood Plaza if it got in the wrong hand, aka the villains of the show. So Foxtail decides that Point should take control over the Glorbs themselves so that they can be used to make their own heroes stronger and to protect the citizens, which would practically make them no better than the villains they're so afraid of, but Foxtail only cares about keeping the power among the heroes by any means necessary. This can easily be compared to how countries will start conflicts and use the military to harvest minerals and resources from poor or less powerful countries, then justify it by either saying they needed those resources or claiming they're doing it for a greater purpose. She destroys the plaza, establishes a Glorb harvesting plant, and keeps the public subservient and docile by threatening to take away their powers if they try to do anything about it. They use military control to make sure that everybody is too scared to do anything long enough so that they can go ahead with their plans. This leads to the main group of heroes starting an underground society that plans to take back the plaza and overthrow Point. Literally, they are planning the revolution that will be televised. Foxtail's power-hungry nature in this episode and the fact that she is willing to resort to direct violence against anyone in her way is easily comparable to any Western/European country that has colonized, pillaged, and violated its colonies throughout history. And while it's not exactly a one-to-one comparison, it's hard to not to see the similarities in these ideologies. But taking a deeper look at Foxtail as a character herself, it makes sense why she thinks and acts the way she does. She's seen the most valuable member of her team get killed, and another member of hers lose their powers, both because of Glorbs. Professor Venomous and Boxman are becoming more dangerous than ever, but by no means does this make her actions justified or sympathetic. At least until she realizes that chasing power isn't the way to keep the people she cares about safe. But I do find it interesting how that theme was woven so perfectly into an already complex story about power and loss. And speaking of putting power into the wrong hands, literally, I know you peeped the thumbnail, and yeah, I wasn't exaggerating. What happens when fear becomes the main currency in society, and the solutions being sold to the public might be more dangerous than the threats themselves?
Alright kids, we're gonna talk about gun control.
"Let's not be skeletons" is one of the boldest statements they ever let air on Cartoon Network back in the day. The episode is one big allegory for gun control and a commentary on the right to bear arms. It starts off with this wealthy businessman slash philanthropist, who I'm just now learning his name Gil as I'm writing this. I genuinely didn't know that. Coming to the plaza with this brand new invention that's gonna change the world and make people feel more safe. This invention is called a skeleton remote, and it turns anything and anyone it zaps into a skeleton and operates exactly like a gun, even down to how they instruct you to use it and the language that they use.
Pow, you watch that laser fly, bam, you hit him between the eyes. Now he's just a skeleton and your problems melt away.
He sells these remotes by instilling a fear into the citizens of Lakewood Plaza, reminding them that there are bad guys everywhere and that they need to protect themselves. Never mind the fact that everyone here has powers that they can use to protect themselves already, and they've literally never had this fear before. But think of the kids. Everybody becomes really trigger happy and paranoid as a result, and it doesn't take long before someone gets accidentally popped for no reason.
Enid! Rad, you doofus! It was a joke! Rad!
My bee!
Another side effect of the remote is that in addition to making them skeletons, it also takes away people's powers, which is essentially as good as disabling someone in this show. Like, it's really deep. And soon, most of the plaza has been skeletoned, and when people start complaining, the solution that's given to them is simply more skeleton remote, because the person selling them the remotes doesn't actually care about safety. He cares about money, and the fear is what's filling his pockets right now. Despite his best efforts to turn people around, KO can't do anything to stop the paranoia that's been planted in these people's heads. And it's so bad that they feel threatened by this 6 to 11-year-old that they turn on him and try to use the rays on him, which leads to that clip that I played in the very beginning of the video, and one of the darkest moments that I think the show has ever produced.
Oh, just do it already!
Thankfully, like the late great Biggie once said,
"It was all a dream."
Not only does this episode successfully pull off an allegory in a way that makes it unmistakable as to what the episode is really about if you're an adult watching this, but still enjoyable if you're a kid with no real understanding of the issue that's actually being addressed, it does so in a way that feels like it still belongs in the show. However, it's so full of these kind of cheesy / cringeworthy moments that in this specific instance, it actually borders on making the episode actively worse, since it does feel heavy-handed. And I will actually criticize this episode though, because it really does feel heavy-handed. I was talking with someone about this, and we both agreed that this episode, and this show as a whole in fact, would have fit perfectly in the 90s with how on the nose it is with its social commentary. The episode deadass ends with KO going to his local congresswoman with his concerns and encouraging the kids watching to do the same. The message isn't what suffers in this case, but rather the rewatchability and quality of the episode as a whole. Still, it was trying to do something good, it just didn't pull it off in the most entertaining or rewatchable fashion. Across these episodes, whether it's pollution, censorship, militarization, or gun control, OK K.O. never loses its playful tone, but beneath the silliness, it's always got something to say. And while it's not perfect or always hitting the mark on said issues, I'll always respect a cartoon for at least trying to say something, because kids aren't dumb. Shows like OK K.O. that trust their young audience to understand and respect said themes are exactly why I became so interested in analyzing media in the first place. So for that, OK K.O. gets my thumbs up. Thank you for watching, have a good day, and take care.